Hi, my name is Brandon. I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. Today I'm talking about AA meetings. What do we think they look like? What do they really look like? And how often do you need to go if you're an alcoholic or addict in recovery? And what I'm going to say today extends past just AA meetings. So this would extend to NA meetings, Crystal Meth Anonymous meetings, even meetings of non 12 step recovery, smart recovery, refuge recovery, celebrate recovery. This all applies to any meetings that are meant to gather alcoholics and addicts together in order to get some kind of fellowship to support recovery. So first, let's talk about the common perception of a meeting. There was the old joke of, I'm not an alcoholic. Alcoholics go to meetings. Haha. Very funny. I used to make that joke myself. It seems really stupid now that I'm in recovery. And, but also kind of true. A lot of alcoholics and addicts in recovery do go to meetings and find them to be a critical component of the recovery process. So in our popular culture, meetings of AA meetings or 12-step meetings are often portrayed as these very sad affairs. So you see very depressed and down and out people sitting in a basement of a church, shrouded in cigarette smoke, all looking very sad and talking about the trauma in their lives and the terrible things they did in their addiction and how depressed they are and how they just can't, they can't imagine going on in life. And I mean, it's all really sad. That's the impression that we get from popular media. And like so many other things in popular media, it's simply not accurate. AA meetings in particular, speaking about those because that's what I have the most experience with, are typically very happy affairs. There's always a chance that there's going to be someone there who's struggling, and the group typically, even in that situation, the group will rally around that person and help them, and that in and of itself can be uplifting. But for the most part, these meetings are groups of people that are there. They're happy to be there. They're smiling. They're laughing. There's a lot of camaraderie. And most importantly, there's fellowship and a spirit of support amongst the group members. So it's a really great experience, and it's an uplifting experience. I'm not an active churchgoer now, but I went to church my entire life. And that's what AA meetings feel like to me. It feels like going to church where you're seeing friends, you're seeing familiar faces, or meeting new people, and you're all sharing an experience of spiritual growth and communion that leaves you just feeling very positive afterwards. Also leaves you in a condition where you don't really feel like drinking much. So that's one of the big benefits of meetings as well. I'm going to read a little bit from Living Sober. They've got a section about meetings, and just read some from what they have to say and then talk a little bit about it. What we did was simply go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. There are over 5 million each year in approximately 170 countries around the globe. And remember, you do not have to become an AA member in order to visit some AA meetings. If all you want to do is to sort of try out AA, you're entirely welcome to attend AA meetings as an observer and just listen quietly without saying a word. You don't need to give your name, or you can give a phony name if you want to. AA understands. It doesn't record names of either members or visitors or visitors attending its meetings anyhow. You won't have to sign anything or answer questions or give your information. You don't have to give an email, a phone number. And if anyone asks for it, you can just say no thank you. These are very low pressure, no pressure meetings, and you don't have to give any more information out than you want to. Remember, anonymous is in the title of the meeting, so the whole point is to go there without fear of having to give much information about who you are in the outside world. Like practically everyone else who has gone to an AA meeting, you'll probably be very surprised the first time. I was, big time. It was totally not what I expected. The people you see around you look mostly normal, healthy, reasonably happy, and successful. They do not look like old fashioned cartoons of drunkards, bums, or fanatic, dried up teetotalers. What's more, you'll usually find quite a friendly bunch doing a lot of laughing at ourselves. That is why, if you're hungover, an AA gathering provides a cheerful environment for getting past the hangover and beginning to feel much, much better. So there's different kinds of AA meetings as well. There's meetings for beginners. There's meetings for men and women. There's meetings for discussing the literature of AA, discussing the steps. There's open meetings where anyone can attend, even people who are just interested in learning more about alcoholism or wondering if they have a problem. And there's closed meetings where only members can attend, and the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking or using in most 12-step meetings. So one of the big questions that people come up with is, do I have to go to these meetings for the rest of my life? And the answer is you don't if you don't want to. But what a lot of people in the recovery community have found is that their recovery requires some kind of spiritual fellowship and communion in a formal setting with others in order to be maintained. So, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, what we talk about, what they write about, is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. And in order to maintain our spiritual condition, one of the key ways that many of us do that is by fellowship and communion with our fellow addicts. Or if you move to a point where you're not, for instance, I know someone who has been sober for 15 years, and this person doesn't go to AA meetings anymore, but they are very active in their church. So that's how they maintain their spiritual condition, is they are regularly, at least once a week, going to a church service, and then multiple days a week working with people in the church to further the mission of that church. So it's really crucial that you consider that as part of recovery, because what happens when we stop doing that is we lose sight of some of the important aspects of being able to recover, which is the fellowship and the community and being able to help each other. As soon as we stop helping other addicts recover, we may find ourselves less likely to maintain our own recovery. Some of what the book says about this is, it is widely believed in AA that a new AA member fares best by getting into the habit of regularly attending the meetings of at least one group, as well as visiting other groups from time to time. This not only provides a big choice of differing AA ideas, it also helps bring into the problem drinker's life a measure of orderliness, which helps combat alcoholism and addiction. We have found it quite important, especially in the beginning, to attend meetings faithfully, no matter what excuses present themselves for staying away. And the idea there is, look, did anything stop you from drinking or using drugs? I mean, if I needed booze and there was a hurricane outside and I knew a way to go get booze, I'd risk it. That's the way I was. And that's the way most people are in their addictions. And so we've got to use the same kind of drive in our recovery as well. We've got to attend meetings no matter what excuses pop up, and it's easy to have those excuses. You know, most of us in our addiction, we were great at coming up with excuses not to do stuff. I used to do it all the time. You know, I'd make plans and then break them, and a lot of times at my own detriment. We've got to get out of that habit now, make commitments, and make sure that we're doing what is necessary for our own recovery. So meetings are incredibly important. Something that, you know, you might do more meetings earlier in your recovery than you do later in your recovery. But for me, I have found them to be a critical component of maintaining contact with other people who are in recovery, keeping my spiritual foundation sound by exposing myself to different ideas and experiencing the fellowship that comes from sitting in the same room with other recovering alcoholics and addicts, sharing our experience, sharing our strength, sharing our hope, and doing everything we can to build each other up so that we can pass that along to the next alcoholic or addict in need. Hope you all have a good day. I'll be back here tomorrow with more.